Thank you for tuning in to Omni Wellness Studio, hosted by Keith Osment and Ali Rico. Through this podcast, we hope to bring you inspiration, knowledge, and strength through hearing about our experience and others that will help you win each day in life, business, and fitness. All right, we are back in the studio today. We got the Rocky Shaw Roman Crippler in the house. What's up, man?
Not much, man. How are you?
Doing good, brother. Doing good. Got me a workout in this morning. Saturday mornings are usually just my cardio time. I just go hammer out about 45 minutes to an hour of cardio and just have a good sweat session. Like a good detox.
Good, solid.
Yeah. So I used to do stair mill, but I'm trying to diversify because I get so angry when I would go in the gym and somebody would be on my stair mill. I'm like, and I was like, maybe the universe is trying to teach me to be more open-minded. So I was like, I need to just hop on this elliptical and just do it. And I've actually learned to enjoy it because I was so hung up on the stair mill for years.
Yes. We were all tired of watching you on that stair mill too, because those of you who've never saw Keith's calves are amazing. And all of us that don't have them get really jealous when we have to watch him move around with those calves.
Yeah, it's just genetics, man, to be honest with you. I mean, and I think it's a combination of genetics and decade of stair mill, because I wear a size 12 tennis shoe, and most of the stair mills, the tread that you step on is not very deep.
Yeah.
I mean, my shoe hangs off, so it forces me to step on my front half of my foot. It's like tippy toes, putting a lot of pressure on your calf. So I give the stair mill a little bit of credit for my calves.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Roman Crippler. So you are, for the listeners that don't know what the heck that means, Roman Crippler, they're probably thinking, man, what's this guy do? Roman Crippler. So I know Rocky Shaw. I've known him for a while, and I know he, great guy, local guy. He's into, would you call it wrestling?
Yes, professional wrestling.
Professional wrestling. Yep. So tell us a little bit about that and what you're currently doing, what got you into it, man. I just want to know, because I can tell you, I have memories of growing up as a kid watching, was it WCW? Mm-hmm. Was that the old school?
Yeah, you had WWF and WCW at the time, and if you're as old as me, NWA, it was also in that mix.
And how old are you?
I am 43, going on 44 in April.
Okay. So man, you don't look that old.
So thank you.
I was thinking you were my age or a little bit younger. So, but yeah, I grew up, I remember my dad watching WCW. I don't think he ever got really extreme into it, but would it be like on TBS?
Yeah, TBS is, and we'll probably kind of hit a little bit more on TBS with primetime. We've took a lot of cues that I wanted to bring back, and the group of us, we do a lot of stuff that our announcements on, we schedule them for 6:05 or 8:05.
Right.
That old TBS time when they used to do it at 5 minutes after on everything.
Really?
Yeah, and that's just kind of an ode because we remember that, and we were like, it would be cool to bring that back.
So they would schedule stuff 5 minutes after the hour?
Yes.
On purpose?
Yes.
That was just their thing.
That was their trademark kind of.
Wow.
So yeah.
But yeah, I remember, obviously I grew up in the time, I guess I was born in 84. So around late 80s, early 90s, it was Hulk Hogan, Sting,
yes,
Ric Flair,
mm-hmm.
Nature Boy.
The Nature Boy.
Does he do the woo?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that was man, I remember, and then, I remember at the action figures, I remember them coming in you could send in your purchases from cereal boxes and get the action figures. And so, yeah, man, I remember the nostalgia of it, and it's so cool to kind of see that coming back. I mean, I don't know if it was ever went away, but I think you're bringing more insight to the Rome area.
Yeah, to the Rome area. I think a lot of the kids, we see now they're YouTube kids. So they're not as much, they don't have the TV access that we did, and they don't really see professional sports we did. And in some instances, what is available on TV isn't what we grew up with.
Right.
To me, the wrestlers, Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Sting, they were bigger than life. Those bright colors, but they were also role models to us. they gave us that eat your prayers, you know, lift your weights, you know, they gave us that role, that thing to do something outside of, you know, physically.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me because, you know, I hit the gym early on. I remember 4th and 5th grade when they still really started letting us do weights at that point in time in school. And, you know, I'd get to do some of those things, and it was great. I had my posters of, you know, I'd probably say Brian Pillman at the time and Sting.
Yep.
And, you know, I would get there and try. That's who I was trying to get my body to look like.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. And so you were into that as a kid?
Yes.
Huge fan.
Huge fan. At the time, I probably did too much listening to other people. We've always heard, you know, you're not going to be big enough, and I'm much bigger now than I was in high school. But you know, during that time frame growing up, I wound up pursuing martial arts because it was more of a fit for my size, or at least I thought so at the time. And I prefer out of where In Shape is now. There used to be an Academy of Martial Arts out there.
You did that for a couple of years, or
I did that all the way up into I got a black sash, and then I helped him teach the women's self-defense class and the kids' self-defense classes at that point in time. So right up until my it was probably my middle 20s. Then I injured my meniscus in my left knee. And so then I had to start kind of taking a back step on how much I was doing.
Is that from all the kicking or people kicking your knee?
Yeah, well, the kickboxing, and so you do a lot of blocking with your legs and everything. And so it was just a lot of wear and tear. When I actually did have it surgery, the doctor told me, he said I spent more time cleaning out the scar tissue than I did working on the problem.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and that studio that you were, the martial arts studio, did he just retire? Did he move somewhere?
You know,
because there's a couple of places in Rome. I didn't know if they had just moved somewhere. There's a place right there that's Taekwondo.
Yeah, yeah. What he taught was Jeet Kune Do, which was what Bruce Lee taught.
Gotcha.
And the last that I had tongue tied. Bill Price was in Cartersville, and then I haven't heard from him in several years. So I don't even know if he's still alive, to be honest.
Do you watch Cobra Kai?
Yes, I love Cobra Kai.
That's a pretty cool show, man. It's like me and my girlfriend Allie both agree that it's like a perfect balance of like cheesiness and like keep you on the edge of your seat seriousness. Like it's a good blend, you know, of all that. So
yeah,
I've enjoyed it. And unfortunately I never did watch the originals or the movie. I maybe remember bits and pieces, but I need to watch it again.
Yeah,
some of the original movies.
So Karate Kid, you never saw the original one?
If I did, it's been so long I couldn't. I need to watch that again.
You do. You need to watch that. That's one of those movies that it stands the test of time. I would really say it does. A lot of them you go back and watch and you're like, man, how did I watch this?
But I do know that a lot of the characters in Cobra Kai are from the original movie, right?
Yes, they bring back a lot of the older actors.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
So what I guess as you went through your younger age, and at what point did you start as an adult kind of getting back into it? Because I mean, have you always been into wrestling? Did you get to a point where you wanted to kind of join a more prominent local organization, or is this? I know all this. Your current group you're in is Primetime.
Yes, Primetime.
Primetime Wrestling, and that's fairly new.
Yep, old school wrestling meets Attitude.
All right.
So
yep.
So a lot of people remember the Attitude Era in WWE, which is, you know, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, D-Generation X, Stone Cold Steve Austin would probably be what most people think of right away. But so Primetime, we're trying to bring that flair back of wrestling, and not only it being fun, we have attitude, but it's family friendly. You know, you can bring your kids to these shows and know that they're not going to get exposed or hear language they shouldn't hear as well. So we're incorporating all those aspects of wrestling. But for me, as far as now age wise, I got started really late. I'd probably say it was well after me and you originally met, when I started hitting the gym and, really turning my life around, getting back into shape. I was always an athlete, but then between my knee injuries and then I severely injured my left ankle and, had donor tendons and everything, replaced it. And I really got in my head as far as what I could do and what I couldn't. And I got lazy. I mean, and fearful of, I didn't want to get injured again. So let's not do anything.
Right. Yeah.
To get hurt, which did nothing for me physically at all. It just put weight on me. And even mental stress because I wasn't used to being that person.
Right.
So once I hit it in my head that I needed to shift that gear and get it done, that's where I started, looking at everything I could online, finding, nutrition, something that I could actually follow. And, it's surprising what I landed on after learning. And I've heard you attest to this is I jumped in headfirst into keto.
Yep.
And it's not easy. Like to me, especially after trying to, for me, it was easier. I needed something to give me a direct guideline of what I could and could not do, period.
Right.
And stick to it.
Yeah.
And I realized for a lot of people, that's almost near impossible to do.
Yeah. Keto is, I don't think it's like sustainable for life, but I think it's awesome for kickstarting something, cause really for anybody that's needing to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds and they're kind of don't have any structure at all in their lifestyle right now as far as their food habits. If you do keto, that's kind of that's a form of restriction in my opinion. There's a lot of different diets and all diets is a form of restriction, whether you're doing intermittent fasting or Whole30 or South Beach diet or carnivore. It's all keeping you in some form of a lane or a box, and really any box will work. But keto is a good one to kickstart, and it sounds like that's one that you kind of leaned into because it was probably at the prime of its when it was getting really popular.
Yeah,
when you started it, and it works, But I'm not a fan of it for forever. But man, if I ever needed to just clean up my diet, or if I went on vacation for a week and just really had a lot of junk food and put on a pound or two, I would use keto for a week or so to kind of reel things back in. Yeah. So it definitely works for that. So that sounds like that's what you landed on.
Yeah, I did, and I tend to agree now. If at first, when I first started in, I guess like everybody else, I would have, the Bible of keto I'd stuck by it. But at the same point, even after a certain amount of time and that restriction, I think your body adapts to that anyway. You have to kind of incorporate other forms back into to keep everything balanced.
Yeah.
So every now and then I'll go. Now that I'm trying to do the macros challenge with Heath Swanson, I'm doing a lot of, I'm eating the carbs, I'm eating the proteins, and everything, and I'm doing really well as far as, it's the sustainable, my lean. I don't really have that much fat mass right now other than around my waist and belly, which I think most of beginners tend to carry that right now.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm looking at, it's only been a month since we followed that. The last time that I tracked, I was down about 2 pounds, in that weight series. So sustainable weight loss, like, it's not a lot of water weight, things like that. So I think it's actually a lot of improvement there.
Yeah. And with the wrestling world, you look at guys like, I guess all your wrestlers that I remember were in pretty good shape. Right?
We had Rick Rude that was from here, and Rick Rude is probably one of the most lean guys you'd ever see in the ring. Then you had Hogan wasn't as lean, but it's a big guy. Hogan wasn't, but he's still in really good shape for the time.
Would the organization let anybody in that wasn't in shape? Is that kind of like their benchmark? You gotta have like muscle and a little bit of visible six pack to get in, or have they ever let anybody in that was like what you would consider obese? Or
we had some wrestlers that were, I would definitely say, would be obese over the time, but they were big guys that were capable of carrying the weight and stuff. But I think the most people that went with popularity and things like that with the kids were those muscled, chiseled figures that actually took care of their body. those were the ones, your Lex Lugers, your Stings, those are the people that people remember. Most of the other bike guys, they were, sometimes great for a show, but usually for the muscle guy to body slam or, it was more or less, I don't want to say a centerpiece, but polish that guy off and make him look even better.
Who do you consider to be the best like wrestler in the world? Like the most like, and I guess that could probably go in different directions, but like,
yeah, I
don't know. It's like, I feel like as far as fame, I feel like the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but as far as if you just stuck him in the wrestling category without all the movie star stuff, like if you just only focused on what they did in the wrestling world, who would you consider to be the best?
Ric Flair. I'd pick the greatest of all time would have to be Flair. And it's because Flair had, and then you have to really think about, and I'll paint this picture in your mind of why Flair is so good. Flair could be in the ring with anyone and make the match interesting and entertaining. Whether he was the bad guy, the good guy, he took that match and made it something you wanted to see. And so that's the indication of a great performer. No matter what you give him, a lot of times in our industry, we say you give that guy a broomstick and he can make a match out of it.
Well, speaking of that, you actually pointed on the next question I was going to ask was, I've always assumed that every second of these wrestling matches on TV are scripted and planned out, and they're spending all week rehearsing. But you're telling me that's not the case?
No.
Really?
Absolutely not the case.
I'm just like, I could just visualize them role playing this for like weeks, getting every move perfect and all the acting and it all but you're telling me it's not like that.
No, sometimes we don't even see the other guy that we're working until time of the bell time. We walk in there and that's the first time we see each other.
Is it really freestyled?
Yes.
How? I mean, it's like, how does that work? I mean, I guess you have to be in the wrestling world and practice. There is some systems to it, right? There's some, what do you call it, etiquette and systems in place that when you get in the ring with another guy that's doing what you're doing, y'all feed off each other and kind of know to do a show and give what the fans want. How do you keep it?
Well,
or is it literally just freestyle?
It literally is just freestyle. When you work with a guy that, and we're athletes, competitive. Most people think, no, don't get me wrong. There are some places when you watch certain wrestlers that you see the crowd goes, well, he didn't hit him. Yeah, it happens. People don't. I can guarantee you, if you're in the ring with me, you'll know I hit you. So that's
hit you how? Like,
from a punch.
What punch?
A punch.
Punch where?
Kick, it could be anywhere, but
you actually hit people?
Yeah. Actually, quite a bit, and I've bled in matches. It's not ketchup packets. If you, Tania's had, I took a steel chair to the back of the head last year and had to have stitches because it went all the way to the skull. I was trying to get her to super glue it and she was refusing and said, hey, we got to go.
So I get it. And I'm not saying explain this to me. I've seen in the WCW world, I'm actually visualizing it right now as I remember watching it on TV when I was little. I can distinctly remember, and maybe it's even watching replays of Ric Flair. I get on YouTube every now and then because I follow him on social media, and you can distinctly, maybe it's a real punch, but they exaggerate it.
Yes,
by stomping the mat.
Correct.
Okay, so like in my mind, when I see them punch somebody in the face or the eye or the forehead, and they stomp the mat, I'm like, oh, they're not really hitting them. They're stopping like an inch before they hit their head, and they're stomping the mat to make it sound like a punch. Maybe the camera guys and audio guys throwing a little effect. And I'm just thinking it's just totally 100% fake. But you're telling me maybe there's a balance of realness and exaggeration.
Exaggeration is, just part like everything else. It's part of the show
performance.
As far as performance, because you have to. There's certain things of the exaggeration where the crowd can actually see it. Me being from martial arts, if I throw a quick jab, they may not, other than see the guy's head bounce back, they may never see my hand whatsoever.
So you kind of got to make it almost slow motion or exaggerate it to even let the audience see it or notice it.
Correct. Because you do want to incorporate the audience and them having a good time.
Gotcha.
So, and there's a story to tell in wrestling. That's the important thing is, the matches, that's why you have the good guy and the bad guy. There's a story to tell, and then our relationship between each other, going to what, go back to Hogan and Andre. Most people remember that because that Hogan's big slam. But the big part of that was everybody cared because Hogan and Andre were friends. But Andre and Hogan both wanted that belt. And eventually Andre turned on Hogan and beat him up, and hurt him. And then when it came to that match, the crowds they're all ready to see what happens now. And then Hogan slams the Giant,
But did the Giant let Hogan slam him? Like, that wasn't planned? Like, how do you determine who's going to be the winner of a match if it's not planned? Do you not, or is it an agreement before you step into the ring? Hey, you're going to win this one.
In that particular instance, and there has to be. Well, I will have to say in full disclosure, I have to. Some of the stuff I'd say has to protect the business.
I got you. Yep. I know I'm asking some innocent questions that you may not be able to answer.
Yeah, but in that instance, I think most people have saw the thing. Hogan was supposed to slam Andre at that point in time, right. And I will tell you, if Andre didn't want you to slam him, you wouldn't have slammed him.
Gotcha.
Andre was one of those guys that if he didn't want you to do anything to him, you wouldn't have done it.
Okay.
I mean, he was truly anybody who saw his bad side when he didn't like you, and there's the times Macho Man Randy Savage. Andre did not like Macho Man, and if you watch if you go back and watch their matches, you can
see that
you can see that. Yeah, he just messes with him, shoves his face with his big hands in against stuff, and presses him roughly. I mean, because he has his way with him when he wants to.
So another good point is, I'm assuming depending on the chemistry of these people in the ring. It can get probably a little ugly sometimes, like for real.
Oh yes,
like
absolutely.
If I was a guy that I felt like I was a good sport, but I knew I was going in the ring with a guy that was a prick.
Yeah,
I would do some stuff that wasn't too, I guess, ring etiquette. Or
yes.
I could see that.
Yes,
I could see where that would probably spark like actual like. It would turn. Have you ever saw anything turn from wrestling to actual all out brawls?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yes, yes. It happens because you think we're all grown men and egos and emotions can run high at times. So yeah, it does happen.
That's cool.
And people, but even as far as the physical aspect, the ring, everybody thinks because they see it bounce. Sometimes they're it's a trampoline. I can send you pictures now before of what a ring looks like when you're setting it up. It is that what you see is bouncing is 2x4s. They're laid across there, and there is about, I'd probably say, a 1/4 inch of foam padding there.
So it's not a padded trampoline.
No, it's not a padded trampoline. So
it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And so when you hit, when most people tell me they come in and we have a wrestler, they said, "Hey, I want to be a wrestler." The first thing most wrestling coaches will do is have you come in today and what we call bump, and that's when you learn to take a flat back bump on the ring. Most of them never show back up after the first day.
Just knocks the breath out of them.
Yeah, the breath out of them. They're sore. They feel like they've been in a car accident the second day. I mean, and so
you got to build up to it.
Yeah, you've got to definitely build up. You've got to have the toughness to deal with it because there's no way it doesn't hurt. And then, I tell people, they're like, in wrestling, they're like, what do you focus on? Back day. I mean, my back and shoulders, my neck routines are a must because I don't want to get injured.
Have you?
And so,
I know you mentioned some injuries in your earlier days, but have you had any recent injuries in the wrestling world? Have you had any friends get majorly injured in the wrestling world in the past 5 or 6 years?
Well, yes. One of Zero was one of the guys that works with us at Prime Time. He had his face broken. So in a match with him and Zach Mosley, and he was coming up and looking up, and basically a knee caught him at the wrong time when it coming from the air, and it actually crushed his face.
And that happened during a live match.
Live match. And so
I'm assuming he just went down and
yeah, I mean, that's
carried out on a stretcher or ambulance.
Yeah, so those are well. He finished the match.
Oh, he finished.
He finished the match because a lot of us. Well, I will tell you, wrestlers are stubborn, and me included. As far as we don't want to we don't want to give up. So I mean, if we want to finish the show, if at all possible, there comes to a standard where that's.
Oh yeah,
can you or not? On what happens, but a lot of times, I guess. In that case, he was probably in shock. Still didn't really know how bad he was hurt.
Adrenaline going and all that.
Yeah, so it's usually right after that everything sets in, and you see the chaos that's ensued and when what's happened. But
yeah, so I've noticed like a transition, and I'm not going to mention any names. You can if you want, but like over the past couple of months, you were with a certain group. You, in my opinion, kind of had higher aspirations and a vision.
Correct.
So you branched away from that group.
Yes.
Now you're Prime Time, and I'm looking at you. And I'm like, okay, you're a wrestler, but you're also kind of you're helping promote the organization too. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Prime Time is my sole focus at this point. Sean Ambrose is to kind of protect this baby. It's all under his lead, and so we follow his lead with everything. But I'm really putting a lot of effort into that as far as helping us get sponsors, looking at promoting, because my idea with the sponsors, and you've been great to actually sponsor us as well, is to promote our local businesses, because we're doing a local show and we're trying to bring in the people that are local. It's for me, being around this town for so long, it's about people like you that actually put money in this and do something locally that changes this area than it is. I mean, the balls, the big corporations like this, they got great money. They got multi-million-dollar marketing budgets. But how does it affect Rome, Georgia, specifically? It doesn't. I haven't saw it help us that much.
Yep. And you said Prime Time has Prime Time been around for a while? The name?
It has not. This is a brand new creation of us. So, Prime Time will debut in Center, Alabama on March 11th, and I'll give you a little spoiler. This is probably when this comes on March 11th. At that date, we will announce our very first time and location in Rome. So that's coming very soon, and Rome will be our major focus.
Okay, so Prime Time was founded. I guess it just kind of worked out where you were itching to kind of change. You met somebody that also had some desires. Did y'all kind of come together and create Prime Time?
We did. We were actually, so the Superstars, which we did at the Thornton Center, was actually, Sean Ambrose has been doing Superstars for several years now, and it's always gotten close to or not exceeded, if not exceeded 1,000 people per show. He was actually also with the previous company that we were with, so part of the management team that had the same aspirations. We are forming Prime Time as it stands. So a lot of familiar work and a lot of people that already know exactly what needs to be done are in place for that. And then we went out and cherry picked some of the best wrestlers for the roster that you could actually find. One of no mention right now that I would like to bring up is we got a 7-foot tall giant. Big Ben is what he's called around here. And he's built very dominant, but he is a very muscular build. He's not.
Where's he from?
I think, if I'm trying to think, I think it's a little bit closer to Atlanta.
Gotcha.
Where he is, where he calls home. 7 foot tall.
So he's going to be the giant of
He's
the
going to be
organization.
the giant. Yes.
Okay.
And so, and most people, I'm 6'2", and I'm not used to being looked down upon. So it's weird when I walk up to someone that I'm actually staring up at. So that's, and with this roster that we have, we've got Big Andy. So 404 pounds. I mean, he is a big fella. I mean, he was kind of a King Kong Bundy's kind of style build and size. So a gigantic guy.
Yeah. So you got this, I don't know if I've ever saw a 7 foot tall person in person.
Yeah.
That's got to be crazy. Like he'd have to probably dunk his head a little bit getting in this doorway.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it is.
Who the heck's he going to wrestle? I mean, who's going to be up for him? I mean, how do you choose that?
Yeah.
Who volunteers? Do you force somebody to? Or y'all flip a coin?
Well, it goes down and winds up in there. Eventually, none of us probably excited about it, but we'd do it.
Oh, my God.
And so I'll be honest, and that's just my computer nature. I'm excited. I was like, I'd love to be in a ring with a 7 foot.
I was about to ask you.
I was about to say, because I've never done it. It's a first.
It would be a good show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As far as the performance and entertainment.
Yes. So yeah, that'd be. I mean, last year I kicked off. I did a dog cage match, which had a steel cage, and then we were collared and chained by a dog chain. What? So that was. It was an incredible first. It was an exhausting first. I tell you, I probably lost a few pints of blood in that match. So
you were chained up.
Yes, we were chained by the neck like a dog to each other, and actually inside of a steel cage. So,
wow.
So the chain was actually a weapon as well.
Dang, where is this like? Can people go back and watch this on YouTube or anywhere? Or is that been recorded?
Yes, we do have that. It is available. Superstars. There is. It's broken into 2 parts, but it is available there, and I'll be on the second part, the main event.
And that's a website or a Facebook or a social media? YouTube.
Yeah.
Superstars. Yep. Just YouTube Superstars.
Yes, YouTube Superstars. You should be able to find that.
That's awesome.
Superstars Fan Fest, actually.
Fan Fest.
Yeah.
Well, cool. What's some of the back end business, I guess, challenges that because I mean you're more than just a wrestler. You're actually helping promote some of the stuff, so you're probably getting a little bit of an inside scoop on some of the back end stuff. Like, what's some of the business world to it? Because I'm a business person, and I'm always curious. Like, what are some of the moving parts or challenges to keeping this all glued together?
Wow, insurance. Okay. Insurance.
Yeah,
that's a big challenge. And then then regulations for for instance, Alabama, every wrestler has to have a license to wrestle. So
there's a such thing called a wrestling license.
A wrestling license in Alabama. It's not in Georgia, but they do have it in Alabama.
Holy crap! So how do you get a wrestling license?
Honestly, you just apply for it and you get it, and you put your $30 in. So without getting myself in trouble, I feel like it's kind of a money grab,
right?
But it's something they have in place that we have to do. The promoter has to have a license. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I've always just been curious, like, what moving parts is there to the wrestling world? And I never would have thought a certain license had to be involved.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, you have that. The promoter has to have a license itself. And then if you do not have one, then they come in and you don't have it, it's $400 fine.
Dang.
Per individual who doesn't have one.
Wow.
So we've had to learn that.
And like you said, it's probably a money grab.
Yeah.
And Alabama, of all places, I always thought Alabama was a little bit relaxed.
Yeah, you would think so. I would have thought so too.
I figured Georgia would have been the money grab.
Yeah, and then they won't, not only that, but after your tickets, when you have ticket sales, they want 6% of the ticket sales is for the event as well.
The county, city,
yes.
Whatever it's in?
Yes.
Man.
So you learn quickly there's a lot. So those are moving parts that you don't even realize because you have to run a show, you've got to rent the place, the building. You have to put down an insurance and have insurance for the event, like maybe cover liability. building damage, things like that. So
not only for the wrestlers, but for probably customer or guests.
The fans as well.
Yep.
You've got to, of course, you're paying your wrestlers, so you get your booking fees for your wrestlers there. Music, you got someone to operate your music, your lights, camera. If you're going to record that and send it to YouTube, you've got cameras. You've got a camera guy that's doing all those things. And so, in the night of, you've got to manage all that.
And you probably got to have an MC.
Yeah,
an announcer.
Yeah, you got an announcer. So, and then all these things have to come together and work together that night.
Yeah, so a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, and so you can imagine, and what if somebody's sick? Then you have a whole different issue of, how do we pull all this back together?
Yeah,
but you have to make it work. I mean, it's one of those things. There's no pulling out or canceling. You're in a live show, so things happen.
Yeah, it reminds me of the local bodybuilding show here, Roman Classic.
Yeah,
I got a little bit of an inside scoop on what it was like to put on a show like that. I mean, Steve Bailey was the original promoter for that show back in 2007, and I was a good friend of his, and just kind of watching him go through all the loops and struggles of just trying to get the auditorium rented, the staff backstage helping the competitors stay in order, anything from making the trophies to getting people's names right, biographies, music, the DJ, lighting, ticket sales. There's a lot of moving parts, man. And it ultimately wore him down, and that's why I think he handed it off, because he just got too much and for him and his wife to handle. I kind of wish they were the type of people they should have asked for more help.
Yeah,
they should have asked for more help. I would have been happy to help him more, but I think he should have kept a hold of it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's been, I guess, 15 years ago now. Now they're on like 17th annual Roman Classic.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Well, cool. What other, is there any other, like, have you ever overcome any kind of major life obstacles, that took some major mental strength, or even anybody in your family that has overcome some stuff that's kind of you've had to overcome, and that fitness has maybe helped ground you?
Yeah, well, and for the community had a big part of this, and as well as you did when my wife Tania, was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease, which is a hereditary disease that consumes your kidneys with cyst. There is no cure for this. So we had to go through the process of, first of all, once it got to a certain point, you have to get wound up going all the way to dialysis first. Then, when she was at that point, she could go to a, transplant list. Now, a kidney is not easy to get. I mean, but despite that, we went to Emory. You have to do several tests, and Emory selects you based on your physical ability to adapt to this new kidney as well. Because if you can't, they're not going to give you a kidney to someone who can't take care of it and keep. If they're going to fail anyway, that's going to make the numbers look bad for them. So they want someone that's actually going to be healthy for that. So when we got in that process of me and her both at that point, when she was there, I was like, look, we both got to kick this into high gear. We've got to do the best we can with our health, the gym, the eating. We've got to show these doctors that you deserve this kid.
Trying,
yeah. And we really, she was a champ there as far as got into much shape. And it's hard if you watch somebody go through dialysis to do something the day after your dialysis is. I mean, they're drained. I mean, it's scary.
Dialysis is basically a machine you get hooked to that's acting like your kidney.
Yes.
It's flushing your
filters your blood. So it basically takes it's taking all your blood out, cleaning it, and sending it back inside of you.
Wow.
And so, and it's a tasking process on the body.
How long does that process take? How long are you in that machine or at that machine?
It's about 2 or 3 hours usually.
2 or 3 hours. And how many days a week?
Depending on how bad your kidney decline is. I think hers was around 2 to 3 times a week. and some people are almost every day.
Dang.
And that machine's basically keeping them alive at that point. We got real lucky on hers with her family did not qualify for either high blood pressure reasons or something else. So, they were not a match. I was not capable of giving to her. Not only was I not a match, but, I did not really, or was aware of this, but, kidney stones is considered a kidney disease. So if you have any type of kidney disease, you can't actually donate your kidneys either. So I had had kidney stones before.
Really?
And, so
if you've had kidney stones before, you can't donate
you cannot donate.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never had kidney stones, so I'm eligible, I guess, for now.
And so, but basically, she had someone from California that was trying to donate to someone else, and they couldn't. But they found out that she was a match. That person was a match for her. So, but somehow the way they did the change is that person would donate here, and this person would donate here to their opposite, the people they could actually donate to. And so they called her. And we had the surgery on Thanksgiving, and then replaced her kidney with that. And we've been doing she's been doing great ever since. I mean,
so Thanksgiving was just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, well, it would have been the Thanksgiving it's been about 2 years now.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was right before COVID hit. So she got she got her kidney. We were recovering, got home, and then COVID and all that started right after that scenario. So then
Could you imagine going through that during COVID? You couldn't have been in the room, or
it would have been awful.
Part of it.
So I mean, it was bad for her anyway because we basically had to. It's a weird situation because they're telling me she doesn't need to be around me, so she can't go to work, but I have to go to work because got to keep. We've got to keep money coming in, but every time I leave the house, I'm bringing options. I could be exposed at any point in time and come back home.
Because she works. She was working. I guess
she was working. She was working at the sexual assault center in Rome up until that point. And
you got a full-time job too. I mean,
yes.
Wrestling is not your full-time thing yet. I know one day maybe you'd hope for it to be. But.
Yeah, no. I work with JBM here in Rome now, selling office equipment.
So trying to balance all that with your wife, and she's not able to work because you're having to take on more of a financial role. Be the kind of the captain of the ship at that point. That had to be rough.
It is. You're financial, and you got your kids. We got 2 kids, 2 girls. They're going to school, bringing back journeys for her. Plus, she's recovering, so I'm, somewhat dad and mom both as much as possible. And so on top of that, so we had with COVID, that's when I hear people, and it's the same way with you. I know because we know what time is. And how much and how you can actually. There's really not a point that says when someone says, "Do I exercise or hit the gym?" So when I say I don't have enough time, so no, you don't make the time.
Yeah,
because there's always time for a priority. If it's something that needs to be done, you can figure out how to get it done.
Yep.
And I did all those things and still kept to the gym, still kept on track on my diet, and and I had more than what I felt like any human should actually have on their plate at one point in time.
Yeah, I recently had a guy he told me to do a formula based off, he says, if you ever tell yourself you don't have enough time for something, then you take how many hours are in a week. So there's 24 times 7, so it's 168 hours in a week, right?
Yeah.
So you write that number down, and then you want to know how many hours do you usually sleep? Figure 7-8 hours a day. So you would say, let's just say 7 times 7, that's 49. And then how many hours do you work? Most people work. You're at the job 9 hours a day. I guess if you include like your lunch.
Yeah.
Maybe you got to commute. Let's just call it 10 hours a day dedicated for work life. So that's 70 hours. And then let's just say you want to spend, some time with the family, an hour a day, whether it's with your kids or, if you were going to carve out. So that's 7 hours a week. So add all those numbers up. So you got 49 plus 70 plus 7. That's 126 out of the 168. So then you ask yourself, 168 divided by 120. what are you doing the other 42 hours?
Yeah.
So there's some wiggle room there.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's like, yeah, I mean, all right, then you throw in the gym. You know, you could also throw that. That's obviously a necessity. But you see what I'm going with that formula.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that visual. So for people that question themselves on time, whether it's for, I guess, going to school or working out or whatever your goal is, do that formula. It's really surreal and eye opening to write that down and see it on paper, because you do start questioning yourself. You're like, oh my God, even if you had 20 hours left in a week, you're like, what am I doing with that time? And I tell you another one that's eye opening too, and it really changed my perspective. And a lot of times I'm doing it for business, but check your iPhone settings and let it tell you how much screen time you have.
Yes.
That is a very humbling moment.
Yeah.
When you go in there and it says, oh, you spend, 6 hours a day on Instagram. I'm like, okay. How much of that is business only? How much of it is just meaningless scrolling?
Yeah. And it's habit, because I do the same way as, especially those little reels. And some of them, because I think some of them, especially when they have motivation ones, or like if you've done one, then you put, I'll flip those on, and before I know it, I spent 15 minutes just rolling through some of those.
Yeah, so I love that formula. So I don't know how we got on that, but anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no,
go off on a tangent there. But your wife, how do you say her name?
Tania. Yeah.
She's 2 years past her post, I guess, or kidney replacement.
Yep.
I'm sure at this point it's safe to say that her system has took it and it's good.
It is.
Well, got to get through another couple of steps.
Well, there's not as far as, this is the kind of strange part about a transplant, and this is stuff that I've learned, not know beforehand, is you never completely are out of rejection. Your body, no matter what it is, if I give you something of mine and it's not yours, your body's always going to reject it because it's a foreign object. No matter if you need a heart or not, if I gave you my heart, your body's going to still attack the heart with antibodies.
Wow.
So they basically lower your immune system for your rest of your life, and they keep it at a certain level so that your body does not attack that organ. And so she gets monthly, they call it Bella as a treatment, but it's basically an immune depressant that keeps her immune system at a certain level so that it will not attack and kill that kidney.
The flip side of that is she can get sick easier.
Yes.
Man.
That is the flip side is.
So if anybody's going to be a germaphobe, she has a right to be.
Yes. And she's really not, we do as much as possible, but we both have always agreed that we won't live in fear. You can't be in a box because she has to live. I mean, just to get it, if you can't live, then there wasn't a purpose in the whole thing anyway.
I mean, does she stay sick often?
She doesn't, but she is likely to get like, if let's say if we eat the same food and maybe, well, let's say if it stayed out a day longer than it's supposed to or whatever, I might not get sick. She would get sick.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, so, my body would be, okay, it's, not perfect, but, we can work through it. She's going to get sick off that. So, foodborne illnesses, things like that, she's much easier to get a hold of those than we were, or just a common cold. The girls bring in a cold or something like that, she's more likely to catch it.
Let me ask you another question. Before y'all found a donor, was there any point in your life where y'all got really scared? Like playing it forward, like what if we don't find a donor? Was there a time clock ticking saying, hey, if we don't find somebody by this date, it's not going to be good? Like you could lose her.
We were already edging into that point, and I was, internally terrified, but
because this is a person you've been with for how long?
God, we're at 19 years.
So the thought, you had thoughts running through your head. Yeah. This might be how I lose my wife.
Yeah, and I've got two girls, and and so I'm going to lose my wife, and I'm going to have two girls, and I have no idea. They're still they're at their stages where mom's going to play a big role because
they're how old?
14 and 16. So.
Yeah.
So I mean they're turning into women, and there's things Daddy cannot answer. And Duddy doesn't want to answer. So yeah, I mean, I was terrified. I didn't let her,
Yeah, you didn't want to show it.
I didn't want to show it because, we grew up in that, men don't cry, men don't do these things.
Yep.
So, but I won't lie. There's times I sit in my car and bawl my eyes out, by myself because it was the amount of stress because, like, how do I do all this stuff? And, and plus my wife will tell you that it's one of her things favored about me and also things that are aggravating me. So I have that Superman complex. If you tell me about your problems, I'm going to want to try to figure a way to fix it.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of times, as women as well, is they don't want you to fix everything. They want you just to listen to them.
Right. I agree.
And so that's the hard part. I had to learn.
You're right. Men automatically go into problem solving.
Yes.
And you're right. Me and Allie just had this conversation a few months ago where she could just be venting to me and she's just glad I'm listening, to whereas I automatically go into problem solving and will sometimes interrupt her and start thinking about solutions, and that wasn't the right thing to do. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. Any of you guys listening out there, just listen.
Yes.
Just listen, and maybe at a different time bring it up, but definitely not while they're venting or, whatever you want to call it, complaining, crying.
Correct.
Don't be talking about, have you thought about this? Why don't you do it this way? Or, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, yeah. So speaking of the donor, man, did y'all know who the donor was, or how did that come about?
We did not. As I said, it was kind of like a thing. She was in California, and the donor process, they don't tell you.
So it wasn't a person that passed away?
No, it was not. It was a living donor.
So you could find that out at least, a living donor.
And now we know, and my wife could tell you her name because they've had conversations since then.
Oh, they've spoken.
They've actually spoken because the donor had wrote her a letter to her, and it goes through there's a medical professional signing, and she gave it to her, and then she says, "Hey, would you pass this to my donor if she will accept it?" And so once they did that, then they had the information from each other to contact. But as far as if you called Emory and say, "Hey, who gave me my kid?" That doesn't work. They no, that's anonymous. We can't, I guess HIPAA and all that stuff.
But she was able to get in touch with her.
She was. So they've had conversations now, and they've talked. They've actually talked about visiting with each other eventually. Her going out there and them actually meeting one another face to face. So
I just wonder what the girl in California, that's where she's from. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wonder what goes on in somebody's mind like that. Like, does people just like willingly go donate a kidney because they feel like somebody might need it? Is that something people do? Or why did I wonder what her story is?
Her story was, I think it was someone, and I want to say it was her sister that was going through the same problem.
Gotcha.
And so she saw how it's affected. So she, when she put her kidney up the way it worked with that system, it was called a chain. They called it something similar to a chain donation. I'm probably going to explain this wrong, but that when she gives hers to someone, then someone can give to her sister in that line. So it kind of opens her sister up for one from someone else too that participates in this chain.
Gotcha.
And that's how Tania got. So when she put hers up, they ran it to the database and said, "Well, hey, this is a match for Tania Shaw." And so then they told her, she decided to do it. And it was crazy. They called us, told us when to be at the hospital. We got to go. Cause they both put them both in surgery at the same time. They put one flight to Tania and put it in her right away.
Wow. So it's like got to happen at the same time, man.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was such a blessing.
Yeah, it was
miracle.
It was a miracle. Stressful, when you think, because the surgery, that's a major surgery. It can go wrong just as well as it can go right.
It's true.
And so especially when their health's already bad, because, Tania was weak and, from, all the dialysis and everything. So she wasn't going into surgery at 100% healthy like an individual, at the best case scenario. So you're sitting there on the edge the whole time to make sure, does this come out, good for us?
Man,
And
that's so awesome. Now it's been 2 years. It's been
Yep.
2 years, so I'm glad. I know you said that there'll always be a chance of rejection, but
Yeah.
I feel like being 2 years, out of it, it's looking pretty good.
It is. And so, as long as you keep a good eye on them, because I mean, if she goes into rejection, she gets in the hospital, they can counteract the rejection.
Okay.
So there's always that chance that it can happen, yes, but they can reverse it. But it's working with your doctor, staying with them, and not doing crazy things. She doesn't. People are like, hey, what does this happen? We don't go out and drink all the time, because that kidney, and it's a blessing. It was something. It was a gift, so we take care of it. But I mean, that's. I guess that's. I don't really know where else to go from there on that.
Yeah,
one.
man. Well,
So yeah.
You're wearing a shirt right now that says "Beware the 12 gauge."
Yes.
What is that all about?
So the 12 gauge is in wrestling. So it's kind of a strange story, but Shawn Michaels was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. And he used Sweet Chin Music, which was a super kick. And I always liked the way he could hit it from almost anywhere in the match. You could almost not expect it. If he'd get far enough away from you, he'd kick you in the face.
Yeah.
And so, me being a kickboxer, I was also really talented at kicking. And so one of my matches that we had, the guy was like, you should kick the guy in the face. You should kick him. And so I was actually, strangely enough, I was a referee in this particular match, and one of the guys shoved me in the match, and I was threatened. He wasn't supposed to touch me, so I was told that I didn't do anything unless I was, forced to do something. So he was great. The match, I told him to break. He shoved me with both hands, and and you can see him thinking I thought about it for a second, and then I nodded my head, and then I just kicked him right in the head.
You were the referee?
Yeah, I was the referee. And so
I can imagine what kind of show that was for the ref to do a kick like that.
Yeah, and yes, and the crowd went wild. And so
Oh my gosh.
the match got ended, and I had people coming up on me. They're like, "Man, that was the great." And it's funny because a lot of people don't know how different types of kicks. They were, "That's the best drop kick I've ever saw in my life." And then when I finally came up to one of my matches, that was the move that I wound up hitting I hit the guy with the kick too. 1, 2, 3, and then after that, the fans started expecting that kick. And I was like, well, this really wasn't what I was intending on doing, but I was like, I'm going to embrace it because they like it.
Yep.
And, but in my head, I was like, but what makes everybody tells me, that it was very similar to Shawn's, but my super kick was completely different in the same instance. And I was like, me being marketing, I'm going to brand it.
Right.
So I started calling it the 12 gauge.
Gotcha.
And so, now it was funny because at first I didn't realize after a couple months how far this had gotten, but I'd go to different promotions to wrestling. The guy goes, they were like, well, I don't want to take 12 gauge. I don't want to do it. And, nobody wanted, that's being kicked in the head by me was not on anybody's top list.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the birth of the 12 gauge. And now it's, again, a lot of people will go through here.
Right.
And, as it got more popular, this was the newest shirt we had printed out. I went over to Jason, in High Voltage and said, look, I said, I need Derek to go work on something for me. And I said, this is kind of what I got in my mind. And then he came up with a design. And, so the Beware the 12 gauge shirt was born.
That's awesome, man. Well, where can the listeners keep up with you? What can they follow you on as far as the social medias and stuff like that?
I am on, Facebook and Instagram. So, it would be, at Rocky Shaw JR. There is also a page for the Roman Crippler as well, but the Rocky Shaw will be fine. It'll link you to both of them. I do have a Twitter. The Twitter is at Rushing Wolf. And then I'm trying to think.
And then does Primetime have a page or,
yes,
or a
we do
website?
have Primetime Wrestling is on Facebook, and there is Primetime, which would be primetime-wrestling.com is the actual website. But again, if you go to the Facebook page, it'll give you the link to both of those as well.
Sweet.
So yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you being in the studio today. And yeah, if you guys want to follow Rocky, keep up with his kicks and see what the Primetime Wrestling world is up to, go be sure to follow him on all the social media and stuff, and go check out the show in Alabama.
Yep.
And then soon Rome. Right.
Soon Rome. Yep. So,
all right, brother. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with us, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode. If you receive any value from the show, please share, subscribe, and give us a rating.